Have you ever felt like life keeps throwing you down again and again? Have you ever felt that you have the power to do something big, but every time situations, pain, and people pull you back? Maybe you have seen those days when people said, you can't do anything, and the worst moment was when a voice inside you said, maybe they are right. But even then, a small fire kept burning inside you. After every failure, it said, I am not as weak as the world thinks. David Goggins was also like this, a child who grew up in poverty and faced abuse, but wanted to prove to the world, you cannot break me. This is the story of Can't Hurt Me. In this audiobook, you will learn how to turn pain into power, how to kill fear, and how to become mentally strong. In Chapter 12, you will learn the hardest truth that changed his life. Welcome to your Hindi audiobook channel. Comment below, now my pain will become my strength. Now let's go to Chapter 1. Chapter 1. People who run from pain never win. There was a boy whose childhood was full of pain. Every morning his house was full of shouting, abuse, and violence. Before school, he worked 5 to 6 hours in his father's business. Still, he had to show the world that everything was fine. That boy was David Goggins. He never thought he would become a Navy SEAL. He believed he was worthless. One day in school, he couldn't do pull-ups. Students laughed, teachers called him weak. But that day, he decided, I will not run from this pain. I will use it. At first, he could do only 2 or 3 pull-ups. Next day, 5, then 10, then 20. After some months, he did 430 pull-ups in one day and made a world record. Was it his strength? No, it was his pain turned into fuel. He says, pain unlocks a secret door. Most people never try to open it. So the first lesson is clear. If you run from pain, real change will never happen. Don't run from pain. Make it your training ground. Think, if you turn your struggles into daily practice, can you become someone no one can hurt? Now, Chapter 2. Turn pain into power. There was a village boy who cried easily. Teachers, friends, and even family said, you are weak. One day, his father said, your tears will not stop until you learn something from pain. That was his turning point. David Goggins says, pain is the best teacher, but only if you are ready to go through it. Pain comes in everyone's life. The difference is simple. Some people run from it, others use it to grow. Example, an athlete feels pain on leg day but still trains. He wins marathons. Another athlete avoids pain and stays at the starting line. Our mind has an old program. When pain comes, avoid it. But the truth is, without discomfort, greatness is impossible. Think, if you face discomfort every day, where will your confidence be in 6 months? Chapter 3. First, fight yourself. Before becoming a Navy SEAL, David Goggins worked in pest control. Every night he killed cockroaches. Every morning he avoided looking at himself in the mirror. Why? Because he knew he was running from his own potential. Most of us do the same. We argue with others, we compare with others, but we avoid fighting our real enemy, ourselves. Example, if you look in the mirror every day and think, I wish I could do something big, you are cheating yourself. David Goggins says, face the truth, even if it is ugly. Our first fear is our own weakness. We hide our broken confidence, past failures, and fake excuses. But change starts when you can look at yourself honestly in the mirror. No filter, no excuse. Think, if you ask yourself one hard question every day, why am I not doing it? How much will your inner strength change in 1 year? Chapter 4. No excuses. In his childhood, David Goggins lived in a house like war zone, domestic violence, racism, and poverty all together. But he never used them as excuses. He said, I am not a victim. I am a warrior in training. What do? I don't have resources. My family doesn't support me. My college was not good. Excuses everywhere. Example: if a UPSC student says, "My home environment is not good for study," his failure is already decided. But another student studies in candlelight and still succeeds. Success comes from execution, not excuses. Think, if you turn every excuse into action, what can you achieve in 1 year? Chapter 5. Challenge your mind's limits. When David Goggins completed a 100-mile ultramarathon without preparation, his feet were bleeding. But he didn't stop, because his mindset said, "Pain is temporary, weakness is a choice." What do? We leave the gym because of a little pain. We stop studying because the mind feels tired. We quit relationships because we lose patience. We set our limits too early. Example: if you study 30 minutes daily, your mind says enough. But if you push 15 minutes more, that extra effort can double your capacity. Mindset changes when you continue despite discomfort. Think, if you push your limit by 10% every day, where will your mental toughness be in 1 year? Chapter 6. Daily wins are real wins. David Goggins had a motto: "Win the morning, win the day." He started his day at 4 a.m. with a run. No motivation, no applause, only discipline. What do? I will start tomorrow. I am not in the mood today. Let me sleep more. Days pass like this. Example: if you invest just 1 extra hour daily on your most important task, you gain 365 hours in a year. Discipline is not talent, it is a decision. He says, don't wait for the feeling, build the system. Think, if you win your first hour every day, how easy will the rest of your day become? Chapter 7. The real fight with fear. Once, in a police running test, a boy fell in the middle of the race. Everyone thought he would not get up. But he stood up and finished the race, even with bleeding knees. Later, people found out he was called weak since childhood. But that day, he understood what it means to fight fear. David Goggins says, "The fight with fear starts when no one is watching. No applause, no claps. That is where real character is built." We all have fear. Fear of rejection, failure, and embarrassment. But running from fear brings us back to the same place. Example: if a student stops applying for interviews because of fear, his dream stays a job. But if he says, "I will be scared, but I will not stop," that fight will change him. These are private victories that become public victories. Chapter 8. The voices that stop us. Think, what if Sachin Tendulkar had listened to people? They said he is too small. They said he is not strong. David Goggins also heard voices every day. You are black, you are bad in studies, you can never become a Navy SEAL. But he followed a formula we will learn in Chapter 12. Even today, thousands of voices speak inside us. You are weak. Time has passed. Now nothing will happen. But the truth is, we listen to these voices because we have not proved ourselves yet. Example: if you think, "I can't do this," before starting a workout, your body feels tired even before starting. David Goggins says, "The biggest battle is with the voice that says, 'Stop now.'" Chapter 9. Comfort zone is the biggest trap. Imagine a room with AC, food on time, and outside there is heat and hard work. What will you choose? Most people choose comfort, but David Goggins says, no battle is won in comfort. Comfort looks soft, but slowly makes you weak. Example: if you skip the gym every Monday because of weather or mood, that comfort pushes your dream body years away. He put himself in pain on purpose, cold water, hard running, even when he was vomiting blood. He told himself, "This is not pain, this is progress." Think, if you reject comfort, how strong can you become? Chapter 10. Accountability Mirror. David Goggins had a mirror called the Accountability Mirror. Every day he stood in front of it and said, "You are lying, you are not working hard, you are making excuses." Do you have a mirror like that? Example, if you avoid your work daily, is there any alarm inside you? If not, you need to create one. Write down every lie you tell yourself. I'm not in the mood. I will do it tomorrow. I can't do it. Then say, now it's time for truth. He says, accountability starts with you. No one is coming to save you. Chapter 11. Build a strong mind. When hands get hurt, we use gloves. But David Goggins says, to make your mind strong, you must train it again and again. Callous means becoming less sensitive, so pain, criticism, and failure cannot break you. Example, if an artist gets trolled and quits, he stays weak. But if he reads the comments and creates again, that moment builds his mental strength. He chose pain because comfort does not build strength. Chapter 12. The Cookie Jar. David Goggins used a method called the cookie jar. When everything felt like failure, he remembered his past wins. Like cookies in a box, memories of times when he did the impossible. Example, when you face failure, open a diary and read your past wins: first prize, first interview, long run, small success. He says, past victories give fuel for new battles. Think, can you take something from your cookie jar today? Chapter 13. You must rise every time. One story from David Goggins is powerful. During Navy SEAL training, his feet were full of wounds. Blood was coming out of his shoes. Painkillers did not work. Still, he said, I will not stop. I have been here before. Have you ever felt like everything is over? Even your mind says, no more. But something inside says, try one more time. He says we all can build a strong mind, a mind that absorbs pain and still moves forward. Real example. Arunima Sinha lost her leg after being thrown from a train. Doctors said she may never walk again. But she climbed Mount Everest. She proved that even when life breaks you, you can rebuild yourself. Lesson: rising after every fall is not just physical, it becomes your identity. If you quit again and again, you become a quitter. If you rise every time, you become unbreakable. Chapter 14. Turn fear into a weapon. For David Goggins, fear was real. Fear of water, loneliness, rejection, and failure. But he used a method to turn fear into his weapon. Once, during Navy SEAL training, David Goggins was afraid of drown-proofing. He feared water because of a traumatic childhood. But to become a Navy SEAL, he had to pass this test. He failed many times. People laughed and said, "You can't do this." But he said, "I will dominate this fear, not escape it." Now, a real Indian example. Milka Singh saw his family die during partition. Fear was inside him, but he turned that fear into speed. The faster he ran, the farther he went from his pain. He said, "When I run away from my past. When I win, I defeat my fear." David Goggins says, "You will never be fearless, but you can be courageous in fear." We run from fear, fear of public speaking, failure, and people's opinions, but he says, don't run from it, run into it, use it. Example, if you fear what people will say when you leave a job to start a business, remember successful people also faced the same fear. The difference is, they used it. He also talks about taking souls. When people said you can't, he pushed harder until they said, I don't know how he is doing this. Think, if you stop running from fear and say, I will defeat you, how much can your life change? Fear does not stop you. Your attitude does. Chapter 15. When pain becomes your partner. David Goggins pushed his body to a level where science says a person should stop, but his mind said, keep going. During Hell Week, when others were taken out for medical reasons, he ran with fractured feet using duct tape. This is not motivation. This is reality. Indian example. Sandeep Unnakrishnan entered the NSG operation during the 26/11 attacks, without backup. He fought till his last breath. Training taught him to handle pain. David Goggins says, pain opens a door in your brain that comfort never will. In life, there is a point where the body says stop, but the soul says now it begins. If you always step back from discomfort, you will never reach growth. He believed, don't complain about pain, use it as your guide. Example, if you stop lifting weights when pain starts, your body thinks that is your limit, but if you handle the pain, your body grows. He says, stay hard, not just physically, but mentally. Chapter 16. Calloused Mind. David Goggins made his mind strong like iron. Like we get blisters on hands from hard work, he built mental strength through discipline. Every insult, failure, and doubt became a brick in his mind. Example, Sachin Tendulkar was told in childhood that he was too small. People said he had no power, he could never survive at the international level. But what he built was not just technique, he built a strong mind. David Goggins says, your mind is your biggest asset if you train it like a muscle. If you don't train your mind daily, it stays weak. Example, spend 10 minutes daily fighting self-doubt. Spend 10 minutes in silence facing uncomfortable truth. This builds mental strength. Think, if you face every emotion honestly, what will you become in 1 year? Chapter 17. Give yourself a new identity. David Goggins changed his life with one decision: I will not stay the same. He left his old habits, comfort, and excuses. He created a new identity, a warrior. Indian example. Kiran Bedi broke stereotypes when she became an IPS officer. People called her weak and strict, but she defined her own identity. He says, who you were doesn't matter. Who you decide to become is your truth. Example, if you think, I am average, stop that thought. Say, I will redefine myself with discipline and belief. Transformation is not motivation. It is daily, uncomfortable choices. Think, if you give yourself a new identity and live like it, your whole path will change. Chapter 18. The 40% Rule. David Goggins says, when you feel you are done, you are only at 40%. The remaining 60% is hidden behind fear, fatigue, and emotions. Example, in army training, soldiers are pushed to extreme limits. Their body screams, but their spirit is just starting. Most people stop at 40%. Winners keep going. Ask yourself, when you say, I am tired, is it real tiredness or comfort? Don't stop at 40%. Push more. That is where growth starts. Chapter 19. It's all about accountability. David Goggins says, no one is coming to save you, you have to save yourself. Accountability means being honest with yourself. Example, an athlete who reviews his performance honestly improves faster. He says, you are your own hero, your own enemy, and your own mirror. Ask yourself daily, did I give my 100% today? Was I honest with myself? This can change your life. Chapter 20. You can't hurt me. David Goggins says, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Your past may be painful, but your future does not depend on it. Indian example. Mary Kom became a world champion even after becoming a mother of 5 children. She decided, no one can break me. He says, call me names, doubt me, reject me, but you can't hurt me anymore. Think, if you say, I am unbreakable, can anything stop you? One decision can change everything. Now say, no one can hurt me anymore.